Hi everybody. Welcome to YouTube channel Cleaning Overgrown 99. Today I will bring you a horror ghost story called The Abandoned House at the End of the Hill, Memories of the Living. I grew up in a quiet hillside town where every family had its own ghost story. But none stuck with me like the tale of the red house at the bottom of the hill. It wasn't on the map. No address. Just a name whispered in fear. People called it the red house not for its pain, but because its brick walls, once bright, had darkened over time to the color of dried blood. I first saw it on a cold, cloudy afternoon while biking with friends. It appeared suddenly, half hidden behind vines and rusted iron gates. The windows were sealed, the curtains drawn, yet they moved, as if something inside was breathing. There was no wind that day, that night. I asked my grandfather about it. He looked away, then muttered, "Some places aren't meant to be awakened." But I was young, curious, and foolish. Weeks later, 3 friends and I decided to explore it. Just a quick look of flashlights, a camera, a couple of candles. We thought it would be fun. We were wrong. They say a family lived there once, a man, a woman, and their little girl. One day, they vanished. No one knows how or why. Since then, strange things have happened. Cries in the night, footsteps on the roof, a pale figure at the upstairs window. Most think it's just gossip, but when you stand in front of that house, feel the air tighten around you, and hear your name whispered on the wind, you realize something is still in there. And it's waiting. The night we went to the house, the air was still, and naturally stilled, like the world was holding its breath. The 4 of us stood at the rusted gate, flashlights in hand, backpacks full of bravado. No one spoke much. We pretended we weren't scared, but we were, all of us. The gate groaned as we pushed it open. Ivy scraped across our clothes like fingers tugging us back. The ground was soft with rot. Mud clung to our shoes. The path was barely visible under the weeds. But the house loomed ahead, waiting. We approached the porch. Steps creaked beneath our weight. The door stood slightly ajar, as if it had been expecting someone. I remember glancing back. The street was gone, swallowed by mist. Inside, it was colder than it should have been. The air smelled like mildew, dust, and something else, something faintly sweet, rotten flowers. Flashlights flickered across peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and frames with faces too faded to recognize. The walls seemed to pulse, as if the house itself was breathing or remembering. We moved slowly, speaking in whispers, careful not to wake anything. That's when we found the first sign: a child's shoe, small and pink, abandoned beneath the staircase. Covered in dust, but perfectly placed, as if someone had just stepped out of it. We laughed it off nervously, but none of us touched it. On the second floor, the atmosphere shifted. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was heavy, pressing on our chests, making it hard to breathe. One of us pointed to a hallway door, locked. We jiggled the handle. It didn't budge. Then, from inside, a soft sound, thump, thump, something moving or breathing. We froze, and then the doorknob turned, not from our side. We ran, down the stairs, out the door, across the garden, breathless and shaking. No one looked back. We didn't speak for hours after that. We couldn't explain what we saw, what we felt, or why. We all heard the same whisper just before we fled: "You came back." But none of us had ever been there before, had we? We thought it was over. After that night, after the door turned on its own, after we ran out of that rotting house with our lungs burning and legs numb with fear, we told ourselves it was just panic, just nerves, teenagers scaring themselves on a dare. Right. That's what we wanted to believe. We made a silent pact not to talk about it, not to feed it, not to even mention the house again. But the silence didn't protect us. Because 3 days later, the house found its way back into our lives. It started with Lynn. Quiet, thoughtful Lynn, the one who always carried a journal and never spoke unless he had to. He didn't show up at school. We thought maybe he was sick, maybe just embarrassed. But then I got a call from him late at night. Lynn was whispering. His voice was thin, strained, like he hadn't slept in days. "It's in my room," he said. I asked him what he meant. At night, Something stands in the corner, where the shadows are thickest. It doesn't move. It doesn't speak. It just watches. Then he hung up. The rest of us tried to brush it off. Stress, imagination. But we weren't sleeping well either. I began waking up at 3:17 a.m. every night the same time, exactly, heart racing, drenched in cold sweat, with the same dream burning in my head. I'm back inside the house. It's dark. My flashlight flickers. There's the locked door at the end of the hallway. I reach for it, and I hear the voice, muffled, distant, genderless, but somehow familiar. You left me. Come back. Lynn wasn't the only one. Min said he started hearing footsteps in his attic. He didn't have an attic. Hui found a child's drawing on his desk one morning, I drawn in crayon, with four stick figures standing in front of a crooked house. One of the stick figures had no face. I woke up one night to find my bedroom door wide open. I always lock it. There was dirt on the floor, not tracked in, but scattered, like something had crawled in. The worst was what I found under my pillow. An envelope. No stamp, no address, just my name scrawled in old handwriting. Inside, a photograph. It showed for children, standing in front of the red house. The same rusted gate, the same broken shutters, the same overgrown vines. But the photo was yellowed with age. The date on the back read June 17, 1989, and the boy standing on the left, he looked exactly like me. We met again the next day, all four of us. We didn't laugh anymore. The fear was real now, heavy in the air between us, pressing down with every breath. Min said he'd started sleepwalking. Woke up in the garden behind his house, barefoot, freezing, with no memory of how he got there. Lynn had stopped sleeping entirely. He looked hollow, eyes sunken, said he heard breathing when he was alone. And he tried to burn the drawing, but it wouldn't catch fire. We weren't imagining things. Something had come back with us. Or maybe we had never fully left. We tried to research the house. There were no public records, no official address. It didn't exist on any town registry, but old folks whispered stories, quietly, reluctantly. A family once lived there, decades ago, a couple and their daughter. The woman was beautiful, pale, always in white. She used to stand by the upstairs window at sunset, watching the road. Then, one day, they vanished. No trace. No explanation. And after that, strange things began happening. People heard voices, saw faces in the windows, felt drawn toward it in dreams. And always the same warning: the house remembers. We wanted to forget, truly, but it was too late for that. Each of us had felt the same thing since the visit, like there was something missing inside us. A gap, a cold, hollow echo in the parts of ourselves that used to feel safe. The house hadn't haunted us. It had taken something from us, something it still needed. And now, like a tide pulling the ocean back to shore, it was drawing us in again. Lynn said it first. I think we have to go back. No one argued. Not because we were brave, but because we all knew the truth. We never really left that house. We'd only stepped outside for a moment. And now, the door had opened again. We returned, not because we were brave, but because we were terrified of what would happen if we didn't. By then, the signs were everywhere, lights flickering at the same time each night, furniture moving, whispers echoing from rooms we weren't in, reflections in mirrors that didn't match reality. Lynn hadn't slept in days. Min's drawings were getting darker, full of twisted trees and staircases that led to nowhere. Hui had a deep scratch across his back that he swore appeared while he was in the shower. And I kept dreaming of that door, locked, breathing, waiting. We met at dusk, just like the first time. Each of us looked older, somehow thinner, paler, like pieces of ourselves had been scraped away day by day. No one suggested we turn back. As we descended the hill, the sky turned a shade darker, not just from clouds, but something else. The kind of darkness that feels intentional, like the world was warning us. And there it was, the house, still buried beneath vines and moss, still silent, still broken, but watching. The gate opened without resistance this time. As we stepped onto the overgrown path, everything felt slower. The air was thick. The wind had stopped. The trees surrounding the house swayed without a sound. No rustling, no birdsong, just movement without life. Min whispered, "It feels like it's breathing." He was right. The closer we got, the more the ground felt wrong, spongy, like lungs beneath our feet. The boards on the porch no longer creaked, they groaned. Like they were warning the house we had arrived. And the door, it was wide open, waiting. Inside, the smell hit us instantly, a mixture of mildew, burnt wood, and something sickly sweet. Familiar, the same scent from before, only stronger, more present. Like the house wasn't just a structure anymore. It was awake. Dust floated through the air in slow motion, and our flashlights flickered at random, as if something invisible was brushing against them. We didn't speak. There was no need. We followed the same path as before, down the hall, past the broken cabinet, toward the staircase. But this time, it was different. The house remembered us. We reached the upstairs landing. That's when the air shifted. It grew colder and heavier. Our breath fogged out before us. We heard it again, soft, rhythmic thudding from the end of the hallway. Like something pacing. That door, the one that had turned on its own before. It was already open. Only a sliver, but enough to show blackness inside. Not darkness, blackness. The kind that swallows light, absorbs sound, watches you back. I stepped forward. We have to see what's in there. We hesitated. We knew once that door fully opened, there would be no pretending anymore, no escape through ignorance. But it was too late. The door creaked open on its own. The room was empty. No furniture, no windows, just four walls, old, cracked, and stained with something dark. But on the far wall, scrawled in what looked like chalk or bone, were names. 4 of them. Ours. Our full names, written in different handwriting, as if each one had been added by a different hand, in a different year. Dates beside them, dates from decades ago. Then whispered, "My name's already here." I moved closer, flashlight shaking. The date next to my name read July 27, 1985, 30 years ago. To the day. We backed away. That's when we heard the crying. Soft, at first, a little girl's voice, barely audible, echoing through the walls. It wasn't sad crying. It was angry, betrayed. We turned to leave, but the hallway was gone. Where the door had been, there was now only brick. No handle, no seams, no escape. We were trapped. The light bulbs burst, one after another. We were plunged into darkness. Then the voice came again right behind us. "You said you'd stay," Lynn screamed. I dropped his flashlight. Min tried to pound on the wall, but I stood still, because I understood something. In that moment. The house wasn't haunting us. It had chosen us. Suddenly, the floorboards cracked beneath Lynn. He fell to his knees, shouting. Something was pulling him down from below. We rushed to grab him, but it was like trying to hold onto smoke. Hands, small, pale, bony, reached up from the cracks in the floor. Clutching his legs, he screamed one last time and vanished. Gone. No blood, no sound, just gone. We were too shocked to move. Then the crying stopped. Silence. Thick, violent silence. And then the laughter started, childlike, hollow, and wrong. The kind of laughter that doesn't belong in this world, that curdles your blood and breaks your bones just by existing. And from the black walls around us, the faces began to emerge. Pressed against the wallpaper, mouths open in silent screams. Eyes wide with terror, dozens of them. Children, teens, like us. And then we understood. The house had been feeding, for years, for decades, each group that wandered in, each name added to the wall, each door that never opened again. You don't find the house. The house finds you, and when it does, you never leave the same way twice. The floor beneath us groaned again. The walls began to close in. The air screamed. We had one chance, one impossible chance. A single window now visible behind torn curtains, broken, sharp, but open. Min didn't hesitate. He ran. Hui followed. I turned back, one last time, and I saw her. The girl. Standing in the corner of the room, eyes empty, skin gray, mouth stitched shut. She didn't move, but I heard her voice in my head. "You left me, so I brought you back." I jumped. I don't remember hitting the ground. Just the cold. The way the earth seemed to recoil as I landed, like even the dirt wanted nothing to do with the house. I lay there for a long time, staring up at the sky. It was pitch black, and not from the hour, but from clouds thick with storm. Not a single star. Rain began to fall, not soft, not gentle. It slammed into the earth in heavy, violent drops. I heard a scream behind me, a Hi's voice, then silence. Only Min had landed beside me. He was bleeding from his shoulder. A piece of shattered glass stuck through his jacket, but he didn't seem to feel it. He just sat there, shivering. "Where's Hi?" I asked. He didn't answer. We didn't speak again until we reached the road. The air around us still felt raw and heavy, like the storm had settled inside our bones instead of on our skin. We called Hi's phone. No answer. We called Lynn's. Straight to voicemail. I knew what that meant. Back at Min's house, everything was quiet. Too quiet. His parents weren't home. But even so, the house felt like a shell. Hollow. We sat in the kitchen, wrapped in blankets, sipping tea we didn't taste. "Do you think we brought something back again?" Min asked. His voice barely a whisper. I didn't answer. I was staring at my phone. The lock screen had changed. It was now a photo, grainy, black and white. The house, taken from a high angle. And in the window, the little girl with the stitched mouth. She was smiling. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn being pulled into the floor. He didn't even scream at the end, just accepted it. That was the worst part. And Hi. He jumped through the window right after me. I heard the crash. The glass, but not the landing. He never made it out. The next morning, I went back. Not to the house. I couldn't. Not yet. I went to Lynn's apartment. His door was open, not just unlocked, wide open, swinging slowly in the wind. Inside, everything was, and touched. No sign of struggle, no mess, just clean, sterile silence, except for one thing. His journal. It was open on his desk. The last entry was dated the day before we went back, but the handwriting was different. Jagged, uncontrolled. It read, "She remembers us. We were hers before." This was never the first time. I slammed the book shut. Because suddenly, memories flickered in my mind, faint, like smoke through fingers. Visions of the house, not just from last week, or from our last visit, but from before. Me, a child, walking that hallway. Min and Hi, younger versions, standing beside me. Lynn, holding my hand, the sound of music, an old lullaby playing on repeat. The girl in the corner, and a voice, "Welcome home." I ran out of that apartment and never went back. Min stopped speaking 2 days later. He sat in his room, drawing circles over and over again. He didn't respond to his name. He didn't sleep. Just drew. Hundreds of pages. All the same thing. A house. Windows like eyes. A stitched mouth. Door open wide. I tried burning one of the drawings. It turned to ash in my hand. But when I looked at the wall behind me, the drawing had reappeared, burned into the wallpaper. Like the paper had just been a medium, the image had always been part of the world now. A week passed, then another. And then a knock at my door, not loud, just steady, familiar. I didn't move, but it came again. Knock. I looked through the peephole. No one. I opened the door. On the ground, an envelope. No name, no stamp, just like before. Inside, a single photo. It was me. Standing in front of the house. Smiling. But the timestamp said 1992. I wasn't even born yet. Then came the second knock. And the whisper behind it. "You forgot who you were." That night, I dreamed of the door again, but this time, I opened it. And inside, I didn't see the girl. I saw myself. Not the me I am now, but younger, hollow-eyed, standing in the center of that black room. "You left me here," the child version of me said, "so she made me stay." I reached for him, but he stepped back. And then I heard her voice, soft and close. "He belongs to the house now." I woke up screaming. Min's parents called me the next morning. He was gone. His drawings were still there, his bed untouched, but no sign of him, no note, no footprints, like he had been removed from the world entirely. I already knew. He was with Lynn. And Hi. And all the others whose names were written on that wall. So now it's just me, and I feel it every day of the pull, the way reflections sometimes linger after I've left the mirror. The static on my phone when I try to call anyone from our group. The dreams. Always the same door. Always the voice, "We're waiting." I haven't gone back yet, but I will. I don't think I have a choice. Some houses don't need to chase you, they just wait. And the longer you stay away, the more of you they take, piece by piece, memory by memory, until there's nothing left but the version of you that never escaped. It started small. The reflection in the bathroom mirror turning to look at me a second too late. Footsteps outside my bedroom door, even though I lived alone. Whispers behind the television static. Not random sounds, but words, familiar voices, my friends' voices, calling me back. You left us here, come home. I tried to fight it. I threw out every drawing men left behind, deleted the photos, burned the clothes I wore that night. But it didn't stop. My phone would ring at 3:33 a.m. No caller ID. Just breathing on the line. When I blocked it, the calls came from my own number. I moved cities, changed my name, but the post still found me. Another envelope on my doorstep. Inside, a photograph this time, of the house burned down, a black skeleton under moonlight. On the back, a message in smudged ink. You can't erase what you are. That was the night I realized it. We weren't just haunted. We were claimed. The house didn't feed on fear. It fed on identity. It dug into our pasts, rewrote our beginnings, made us part of its story. And stories don't like loose ends. Started to remember things that never happened, or maybe they did, being there before I'd ever seen it. The wallpaper from the house appearing in childhood photos. The same lullaby Lynn once hummed playing on a cassette I found in my mother's attic labeled Home. I didn't ask her where it came from. I was afraid she'd say she didn't remember ever owning it. Or worse, that she did. Then the dreams returned. Not of the house itself, but of the space beneath it. A hidden basement, carved from stone, walls dripping. No lights. And in the center, a well. Not water inside. Not earth. But movement. A shifting darkness, as if the void was alive, pulsing. Watching. And voices from within it. Deeper. We go deeper. That was when I stopped running. There was no more denial. No safety in distance. No hiding in daylight. I had to go back, not to escape, but to remember why I ever left. The drive was silent. The road seemed older than I remembered, narrower, overgrown, like nature itself had tried to bury the path back, but the house was still there. Not as I'd last seen it. Burned and skeletal. No. It stood proud again. Rebuilt. As if it had never been touched. Time didn't touch it. Reality didn't apply. It just was. Waiting. As I stepped through the gate, the air pressed in like a vacuum. No sound. No wind. Just the rhythmic beat of my own heart and the crunch of old leaves beneath my boots. The front door opened before I could touch it. Of course it did. She had been expecting me. Inside, everything was familiar, but wrong. Walls that had once been moldy were now clean, repainted. Ray-papered. Old toys lined the hallway shelves. Lullabies played faintly from upstairs. The entire house was dressed in nostalgia, like it had crafted a memory of childhood just for me. And behind it all, I could feel her, the girl, watching from somewhere beyond the veil, not hiding. Just waiting for the right moment. I walked through the house slowly, reverently. Each step was a surrender. In the living room, the same torn photograph on the wall, now complete. All four of us. Lynn, I meant me. But our faces had changed. Eyes hollow, skin gray, smiling in a way we never had. Then I saw the stairwell. Only this time, there were more steps, more than before, leading not up, but down far beneath the house's foundation, into the dark, the well. A voice whispered from the shadows behind me, "Finish what you started." I didn't turn around. I just took the first step downward. The descent felt endless. Each step echoed louder than the last, though the stairs were carpeted in silence. The walls around me pulsed with a slow, rhythmic thrum, not quite a heartbeat, not quite a sound. More like memory. Pressure. I didn't count the steps. I think the house wouldn't have let me, anyway. The deeper I went, the further the world stretched, gravity bending, time distorting. The air grew colder, but never stale. Something was breathing down here. Eventually, the stairs gave way to stone, rough, and even ground beneath my boots. The passage widened, opening into the space from my dreams. A cavern, carved from black rock, slick with moisture. It smelled like damp earth and ash. And in the center of the well, exactly as I'd seen it. But now it was real. A wide, gaping mouth in the floor. No rope. No cover. Just that same oily darkness swirling below, alive and shifting. It didn't reflect the light from my phone. It swallowed it. I stepped closer. Voices rose from the pit, not echoing, but intimate like breath against my ear. You remember now. We were always here. You chose to forget. I peered over the edge. The surface didn't ripple. It recoiled like it knew I was watching. A flicker of motion behind me. I turned. Lynn stood there. Or something wearing her shape. Her dress was stained, her hands pale and wet. But her face was calm. Too calm. You left us, she said. Her voice didn't accuse. It stated, I didn't know. I whispered, you did. We all did. That night when the house took me in. When you ran. When you let go. You thought it was over. I was scared. So were we. But we stayed. We remembered. From the shadows, more shapes emerged. Hi. Then their faces blurred, like memories rotting at the edges. Familiar, but wrong, completed, somehow, by the house. Min stepped forward. I tried to warn you. All those letters. The calls. I showed you. I thought I was going mad. You were. That's how it begins. I backed away. Closer to the well's edge. Behind me. The void whispered again, louder now. Come back. Be whole. Finish. Lynn extended a hand. Not threatening. Inviting. You don't have to fall, she said. You already did. This is just the landing. A memory bloomed behind my eyes, not a dream. Not a trick. The night it all started. Min screaming. The walls bleeding light. That shape in the mirror, not me. The house opening beneath our feet like a mouth. I didn't run. I jumped. I had already been claimed. And when I left, a part of me never made it out. The part that knew. The part that remembered. Now I understood. The house hadn't been haunting me. It was pulling me back together. Stitching the torn edges of a story I tried to abandon. And I was the last piece. Lynn's voice softened. You can end it. You just have to stop pretending it never happened. I looked down into the well. Something waited there. Not death. Not pain. Continuity. To accept it meant giving up the lie of separation. Of escape. To finish what we started. I nodded. And stepped forward. But not into the well. Around it. The others watched me in silence, confused and certain. Because the well was never the end. It was the center. And now I was circling it. Completing the orbit. The shadows thickened. The air shimmered. I spoke aloud. Not to the house, but to myself. To remember is not the same as to surrender. The ground shuddered. The well-grown. Min hissed. What are you doing? I met his eyes, finishing it. I reached into my pocket. The last envelope. The final photo of the burned remains of the house under moonlight. But I had seen something in the corner of the image. Something I hadn't understood until now. Shape in the shadows. Me. Still trapped. Still burning. I tore the photograph in half. The room screamed. Not the people. The walls. The stone. The air itself. The darkness recoiled. The well buckling inward like a dying star. And the figures round me. Lynn, hi. Minna flickered, glitched. Cracked. Because they weren't ghosts. They were memories the house had crafted, reflections of guilt, of trauma, looped endlessly to keep me tethered. I wasn't finishing a haunting. I was breaking the story, claiming authorship. The walls crumbled. Light poured in, not sunlight. Memory. Mine. The real Lynn, smiling on a summer day. Min at the lake, laughing. Whole. Huy sketching monsters that looked nothing like this place. And me. Before the forgetting. Before the fall. Then the floor gave way. The well swallowed itself. And the house began to unravel. Not collapse when right. And in that space between ending, nothing. A voice, my own, who whispered, now you remember. Now you're free. Silence. Then breath. Then light. But not the kind I remembered. I opened my eyes expecting ruin. The house collapsed. The ground split. The well gone. Instead, I stood in the living room. And touched. Dust in the air. Golden in sunlight leaking through gauzy curtains. The same room. The same room. But everything felt thinner. Like the air was stretched over something deeper. A skin over bone. I touched the wall. It was warm, pulsing, still alive. The house hadn't died. It had shed something. Me, or the part of itself that held me. I didn't know, but I wasn't alone anymore. Not in the way I had been before. There was a presence here, still not hostile, not angry. Just empty, and waiting to be filled. I turned slowly. The torn photograph still hung above the fireplace. But now, it was truly torn and jagged, burned at the edges. Only two faces remained intact. Min and me. Lin and Hai had vanished from the print entirely, not faded, erased. Like the story had rewritten them out of this chapter. Were they free, or were they gone? I moved toward the photo, and behind it, something shifted. A door. Small, hidden in the wall. Not one I remembered, but the house remembered it. It wanted me to open it. I hesitated. Then reached out. The knob was bone white, carved into a spiral, cold. As I turned it, I heard whispers again, but not voices from the well. These were different, familiar. Mine. Snippets of my thoughts, fears, regrets, years of them, stacked like bricks. This isn't real. You're not real. You should have stayed away. The door opened. Inside, a room that should not have fit within the walls, vast, endless, papered in memories. Photographs, drawings, newspaper clippings, all layered over one another. Like a fever dream of my past. But none of it was true. Every image had been altered. In one photo, I was blowing out candles, but the cake was shaped like the house. In another, my mother stood smiling, holding my hand, only it wasn't my hand. It was black, twisted, something else's. I walked through the maze of memories. Heart thudding. The house wasn't just feeding on my past. It was writing it, molding every moment, every scar, into a mythology it could own. And now I was inside its library. But in the center of the room, there was something different. A desk. Clean, empty. Waiting. A page sat on it, blank, except for the title, The Hollowing Underearth, a line in delicate script. Begin again, or be ended. My hands trembled as I picked up the pen lying beside it. No ink. Instead, when I pressed it to the page, it drew blood. My blood. I jerked back. The room seemed to shiver with approval. This wasn't a test. It was an invitation. To continue the story. To let the house write through me, or to take the pen for myself, write against it. I sat down. The walls pulsed, the paper drank my blood, and I began to write. I am not yours. The lights flickered. I remember who I was before the house. The floor groaned beneath me, and I choose what comes next. The house shrieked. Not aloud. In reality, the walls bled static. The photographs melted. The door slammed shut behind me, but I kept writing. Every word was resistance. Every line reclamation, because the house didn't fear destruction. It feared irrelevance. It needed me to continue its myth, to spread it. To make it eternal, but I would hollow it instead, leave it echoing. Empty. A place no story could live in again. I finished the sentence, stood up. The desk caught fire without heat, a blue flames licking upward, devouring the page, the desk, the room itself. And through the collapsing walls of memory, I saw a corridor of white, a way out. I ran. Behind me silence. Then, finally, absence, not peace, but freedom. I burst into the daylight. Real this time. The forest was older, wilder, but the sky was wide. No smoke, no echoes, just wind. I looked back. Where the house had stood, nothing, not rubble, not ash, just space. Untouched. And written. Like it had never been. But I know better. I know what's missing. I know what I left behind in the hollowing. And I know someday it will want to be remembered again. Silence. The forest was behind me, but it still echoed in my bones. I'd walked away from the house or whatever it had become and into a world that felt real again, though thinner. Like memory peeled too many times. I found a town, small, gray with mist. The kind of place where no one asks questions if you don't offer answers. I stayed in an inn with creaky floors and a fireplace that never went out. The innkeeper served coffee and looked at me like she knew I wasn't just passing through. You look like someone who's lost something, she said once. More like someone who escaped, I replied. I needed something solid. Not healing, exactly, just something to build around the whole. I started going to the library, then the archive, not to search for the house. I knew it wouldn't be there. It had never existed on paper, but I read anyway. About memory, architecture, old town records, how history keeps what it can, and lets the rest rot. One day, I wrote a note and left it in a local archive box. It wasn't long, just, there was a house in the woods. It burned, I came back, I left again. I want someone to know it was real. I never asked if it was kept. It didn't matter. The act of writing it down, that was the ritual. I stayed in that town longer than I meant to. Days turned to weeks, then into seasons. I found work helping digitize documents, sold letters, black and white photos, or medals, forgotten maps. People's pasts, handed back to them in pixel and print. And I wrote. Not stories, not horror, just fragments, memory, maybe. I didn't write about the house, not directly, but I wrote about grief, about remembering what's been erased. Some of it got published. Essays in small journals, anonymous, quiet. Half-truths shaped into something almost whole. And at night, I dream again. Not nightmares, exactly, just revisits. The long hallway, the lullaby, the well, always the well. But now, I wasn't afraid. I took notes afterward, cataloged them. I even titled a notebook Colonipersions. It became part of the archive. The house never fully left me. Sometimes, at 3:33 a.m., the phone would ring. No caller ID. I never picked up. Sometimes, I saw flickers in the mirror. A girl's face behind mine. A shadow where light should have been. But I didn't run. I wrote it down. And then, one night, I wrote one last letter. Not to a person. Not to be mailed. Just something I needed to say. To the house, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not running anymore. You fed on our pasts, rewrote us, made us yours. But I remember now, I survived, and I decide what stays. I tore the page from my notebook, folded it, placed it in the back of the drawer. I've moved again since then. Another city, another name, but this time, it feels like choice, not escape. And sometimes, when I pass a window, I still see something that wasn't there a second before, a reflection delayed, a flicker of gray. The echo of footsteps. I don't look away. I nod, acknowledging, because I know what I've become. Not the haunted. The witness. The archivist. And if the house ever tries to come back, I have the pen now. The story ends here. Thank you for listening to the end of the story. Wish everyone a good and happy day. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.